Broadcasting live from the court of the Time Lords on the planet of Gallifrey, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome everybody to Tap Tap Concede. My name is Graham. Joining me is Wheeler.
Thank you for having me, Graham. It's great to be in Cardiff.
That is where they've been filming it since the refresh, I suppose. Today, you may have inferred we're going to be talking about Doctor Whom? Doctor Who. This show is brought to you by Whom Yum at our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. There, you see, it was perfect. Seamless. Mm-hmm. Also, Card Kingdom. You can pre-order the decks that we're going to talk about today at cardkingdom.com/LRR. Putting that little /LRR on there is important because it tells them that we've sent you. And we do that because we think they're great. And they have fast shipping and excellent customer service. And they're a good bunch of folks. And if you ask very nicely for a button, you say, Loading Ready Run sent me button, please. They'll give you a little 1-inch button. What says funny things? Saw a lot of those, actually, upon people's persons at MagicCon Vegas. Shout outs to everyone who came by to say hello at Vegas. That was a super fun time.
I got there was a button that I thought that we hadn't done, and I think it was lands in front, party in the back.
Yeah.
And somebody came up and they're like, "No, you did the button." I'm like, "This is like an IRL YouTube comment. This is great."
That's one of my favorites, honestly. Yeah.
Bless you if you did that, but
yeah. Today we are going to be talking about the Doctor Who Commander decks because we haven't yet, and at time of this episode airing, they will all have been revealed by various different people. I know that a bunch of the decks were being revealed by several different places. I know that Prof, Tellurian Community College, did a full deck reveal of one on Friday.
He likes Doctor Who?
Yeah, apparently.
I didn't get that vibe
total
when
surprise.
I last saw him.
Yeah, what a shock, right?
Yeah.
So go check that out. But at time of recording, neither Wheeler nor I have really seen very many of the cards. Like, honestly, some of them have been spoiled, but I have not looked at very many of them, apart from like the one or two sort of marquee teasers that they did a while back. Mm-hmm. And so essentially what's going to happen today is that James is just going to throw some up for us, and you're going to get live react from myself, who can hopefully give you some sort of insight into why this might be relevant for a Doctor Who fan, and for Wheeler, who can tell you if it's a good Magic card, or at least can tell me if it's a good Magic card.
I don't know. If we get a couple of cards that reference anything from the 9th Doctor, which is basically the only Doctor that I've watched I watched the whole season, and I remember all of it, then I'm going to be like, oh, it's the guy. He says the fantastic.
Yeah.
You know the guy, right?
But, so I guess by way of sort of personal history, I watched Doctor Who as a kid growing up. And so my sort of span is sort of 4, 5, 6 originally, which would be, for your interest, the actors who've played the mainline numbered Doctors. Way back when it started was William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee. I come in around Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor, him of the scarf. Then into Peter Davison and Colin Baker, no relation. And then the original series wrapped up with Sylvester McCoy. And
was he the sprig?
That was that was Peter Davison.
Oh, that's Peter Davison
with the sprig of celery and sort of like the cricket attire.
Yes,
yeah. Colin Baker's thing was he had an umbrella.
Okay.
And then Sylvester McCoy had like a cane and a straw boater.
Right.
hat.
Okay, I know that one.
Then there was a BBC Fox made-for-TV movie. I can't believe this ever got made. And nor can I believe that they actually brought back Sylvester McCoy. This was years later. This was in the 90s. It was like a made-for-TV movie of Doctor Who. It was like a pilot that they were going to see if it was going to land with American audiences. It didn't. So they brought back Sylvester McCoy. He steps out of the TARDIS in America, gets shot.
Yeah, in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, gets immediately shot and killed and regenerates into Paul McGann, who they have since now sort of like referenced, like he is canonically the Doctor, but he was only really in that thing. He's been in a bunch of radio plays and stuff. And then sort of, so the series lay fallow for a while. Then in 2000, they brought it back with, as you said, the 9th Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, who I'm a big fan of, and I'm bummed that he was only around for a season, but that was for behind the scenes reasons.
I've been talking to a lot of people. As I was watching the series, I was sharing with my community like that I was watching it.
Oh yeah.
And somebody described it as somebody who knows who Bruce Wayne is, but not Batman, sort of thing. Like where I'm just like, oh, it's this actor from this thing, and they're like, you mean the actor from Doctor Who that then ended up in these other things?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then David Tennant, Matt Smith. Obviously, I watched all through those seasons, and I started to tail off at the end of Matt Smith's tenure. And then we have Peter Capaldi, which I want to go back and watch because I really like Peter Capaldi. I am told that the writing did not rise to his level, but I like him quite a lot. And then I can hopefully carry through to Jodie Whittaker, who I have not watched any of, sadly. And I want to sort of catch myself back up. And then we have Ncuti Gatwa as the new Doctor, but there's a brief bump of David Tennant again because of wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff that I'm also looking forward to seeing because that was fun as well. So yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan, but I'm not going to claim. If this was Star Trek, I'd be like, all right, settle up. It's trivia time. I do not have. I'm saying this at the outset for those of you, for those of you Whovians in the comments. I do not have the depth and breadth of trivial knowledge of Doctor Who that I might of other intellectual properties. So bear with me.
My husband and I did describe as we watched this as gay Star Trek, but with a small G, whereas Star Trek is gay Star Trek with a capitalized G.
And no further extrapolations necessary. I think.
No,
Yeah.
I mean it seems to be a fitting descriptor. We've been liking it. It's really camp at times.
Oh, it's so. Oh man.
At times,
It's. I would say it's in some ways less camp now than it was in its original run. Like there was some very silly nonsense and certainly in the 80s when I was watching it, but they know to embrace it. Right?
Yeah.
They're not afraid of like, which is funny because of course it's like, oh no, it's television needs to appeal to adults, and so if it's something that they're like, we're making a show essentially for families, for children mostly, but for families, and if it's people can get really weird about being like, oh no, this episode was beneath you or whatever, and it's like, well, provably not because we made it, so deal with it, right?
it's been very interesting talking to people about all the episodes from the Ninth Doctor, and they're like, this episode's good, this episode's good, this episode's good. It's like, I don't know, they all just kind of blend together and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Like
there's some really silly stuff. If
Yeah.
you want to get like really like serious hardcore, real adult TM whatever television in that vibe, then they made Torchwood, and it was all right, and I sort of fell off it as well, and then it ended. So it was I liked a lot of the people in it, but they did get to a point where it's like, man, you're really just making these characters suffer for like no reason. It was a spin-off.
Oh, okay.
It's in the same universe, a spin-off of the show, because it was such a big secret. This trivia I do know because it was such a big secret at the time that they were making new Doctor Who. The masters and internal stuff was being handed around within the BBC under the name Torchwood, which is an anagram of Doctor Who. And then in the show, they made like a group called Torchwood, that they were like a secret special forces thing, and then they used that into a spin-off series, and it's basically like Doctor Who but for gritty adults, right? And I watched nearly all of it, and I was like, yeah, all right, and then I just sort of been like, man, they're really making these people suffer, so I just sort of fell off it, and I was like, you know what, Doctor Who's much more my vibe. Anyway, when this was announced, I was like, oh, this actually sounds like it could be a very entertaining crossover. And then particularly when I realized that Gavin Verhey was in charge of it, or sort of leading the design, it was like, oh, okay, because Gavin's unabashedly been very vocal fan of Doctor Who for a long time, and getting to talk with him briefly at MagicCon about working on the set, I'm really excited about it.
I hope that my personal journey with this is at least somewhat inspiring, because I knew Doctor Who as the thing that annoying people liked, and I didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Hey, that's me.
And then talking to people that were very passionate about it, and this magic thing coming out, and I went from zero interest to like, okay, I'll give it a shot, to I'll listen to it, to now I'm excited. I'm excited to watch more Doctor Who. Just, there's so much out there.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much.
There's so much.
So my favorite thing was that at MagicCon Minneapolis, I was talking to Gavin during some downtime of Game Nights Live, like the prep, not during the actual game, obviously. And it had been revealed that, I think at their panel at that show, it had been revealed that there's a saga for each Doctor, of like an iconic story to that Doctor. Mm-hmm. And they announced the parting of the ways for the 10th Doctor. I get the numbers mixed up sometimes, so I'm gonna tend to go to the actor's name. So for David Tennant, and he was like, "Who's your favorite Doctor?" And I said, "Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor." And he said, "What do you think?" He said, "What's your guess for what saga we will make for the 4th Doctor?" And I'm going to give you no reaction. I just want, I'm curious what you think. And I was like, well, I admit I actually can't remember the name. Very embarrassing that I couldn't remember the name of the story, because it used to be a Doctor Who story was like 5 episodes, 5 like half-hour episodes, and they'd run like over the course of the week. The way that it was that they'd like serialize them over the week, right? Rather than doing like now an episode is an hour, right? So the story would be 5 half-hour episodes, and it was like, oh, it was the one, I remember this very, very clearly. It was the one with Leonardo da Vinci, where they're trying to suss out like which Mona Lisa is fake, because I specifically remember the Doctor time traveling to his friend Leonardo da Vinci's place and getting all of the canvases that he would eventually use for these multiple Mona Lisas, and like scribbling fake on them in a giant black marker, and then leaving a note, of course backwards because it's Da Vinci, for his friend, being like, "Scribbled some stuff on these canvases, don't worry about just use them as you would normally." And then they go back in the future and can use like X-ray to see like the Sharpie that the Doctor's used and determine which one's the real Mona Lisa or whatever. Anyway, it's called City of Death. It was co-written by Douglas Adams, which is probably a big reason why I remember it. And it turns out that was the saga that they did for the 4th Doctor. So I'm really excited about that.
This is very interesting, being in the room with someone where we're eventually going to talk about magic.
Yeah.
But you know so much more about this than I do.
I'm very keen on it.
Yeah.
I haven't, you know what's funny? I don't know what City of Death the saga does. Can you do we have that one, James? Are we able to see that? 2 and a green for a saga. Chapter 1, create a treasure token. And then chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, create a token that is a copy of a non-saga token you control. That seems pretty cool.
That's a lot of tokens.
That could be anything. Even a treasure.
Except for a saga.
Except for a saga.
This is this is one of the things that known stinker for Universes Beyond. Mm-hmm. I do like is that even more so than normal kind of Commander products that are released with mainline sets, they get wacky.
Yeah. Because this is I just described this actually.
Yes.
Right. That it's the Doctor went back and he got the canvases and messed them all up, and there's copies of Mona Lisa all around the episode. And so it's like, they've been like, okay, this is the iconic story we want to make a saga out of. How do we do that mechanically? And they get much more silly with it.
Real top down.
Yeah.
Real just like, we need to, doesn't matter like what we have to do, what rules we have to break are as goofy as it has to get, especially because there's another saga that comes to mind. I think it's Blink from Tennant.
That has to be David Tennant's one. Yeah.
Which makes me shake my head, scratch my belly, shake my belly.
You're in for a treat.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It goes from chapter 1 to then chapter 2, then chapter 3 is chapter 1's ability. Like,
oh, I didn't even realize. Okay, so Blink is 2 blue black for a saga again, but the way that the chapter it's out of chronology.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so perfect. Okay, so the chapter markers are out of order. So yeah, you go chapter 1 is choose target creature. Its owner shuffles it into their library. Then they investigate. So you make something go away and you leave an artifact behind. Then chapter 2 is you make a 2/2 black alien angel creature token with first strike, vigilance, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, this permanent isn't a creature until end of turn, because casting a spell is observing the angel.
Just to be clear, casting a creature spell.
A creature spell, because the creature sees the angel.
Yes.
You're aware of the conceit of the angels.
vaguely.
They can't move if you're looking at them.
So they're boos.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And then chapter 3 is the shuffle a creature into its owner's library and they investigate again. And then chapter 4 is you make another angel that whenever they cast a creature, it is not a creature until end of turn. It turns back into just an artifact.
Notably, these angels have wings on them because they're all statues, right?
Yeah.
Depicting very traditional humanized Christian iconography angels.
Yeah.
With wings, but they don't fly. These tokens don't fly.
No, because they're statues.
Yeah, because they're statues.
Yeah, exactly. They're too heavy.
So how many ways do you think people are going to screw this up?
Like miss that it doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4?
That or that it has to be a creature spell cast. That
There's so many things. There's so many things to get wrong on this one.
But you know what? I am cool with it. I typically will prefer that, clarity and purpose with these cards, with card design of like, so somebody that is brand new can look at this and be like, I understand what this is doing or why it's wanting, like why this card is making me do these things. This one is just like, nope, we got a story to tell.
Yep.
There you go. And that's sick. That's like a level of trust for creative control on like the design team that is really, I don't know, it's nice to see. It's hard to get mad about them doing something so goofy and so abstract.
Yeah.
Especially when the people are so passionate about the project behind it,
I was curious which one they were going to do with David Tennant, because obviously Blink is it's funny because this episode, it's an interesting episode of the series. It's one of the most iconic. It's one of the most popular. And also the Doctor himself is barely in it. Like he's almost not in the episode. In fact, he only appears really as a recording on a DVD. And yet some of the most quotable David Tennant lines are from this episode as well.
Really?
Specifically, the idea that time is not, it's like people think of time as a loop, but it's actually a wibbly wobbly ball of
Right.
timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, yeah, because that's obviously that's how it is,
Wibbly
right?
wobbly timey-wimey.
Wibbly wobbly timey-wimey. I haven't seen this. So 1 and a blue, sorcery, time travel. For each suspended card you own and each permanent you control with a time counter on it, you may add or remove a time counter and draw a card. Wow. Oh, there's the full quote. People assume time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a nonlinear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Look at that CRT.
Yeah. How is this as a magic card? Isn't like messing with time counters kind of great?
Yeah.
With multiple ones.
So-
I know that there's a charm that lets you like increment or decrement suspend thing.
Yes.
But doing it to multiple things with time counters, that's neat.
So suspend and time counters are they were like a cornerstone of Commander.
Yeah.
Like Joyra from Planar Chaos was a card that let you suspend something from your hand with 3 time counters on it. And that was like one of the top commanders in the game for the longest time. And it makes sense. It's you get to cheat out big things, you get to cast stuff for free, give things haste. Like all that is super appealing. And then Joyra just kind of vanished off the face of the earth with vanishing counters. That's a magic joke. Anyways,
She just phased off the face of the earth.
she exiled off the incredibly loud, incorrect buzzer plays. And she just kind of faded away. Like obviously more commanders were printed, more cards were printed, but everything involving time counters and suspended cards has not gotten less cool.
Yeah.
People still like casting things for free, cheating things in play, or tinkering with subverting your opponent's expectations for when those are going to happen, because they're all on a schedule, right? Where it's like, okay, well, in 2 turns, this is going to happen. Haha, just kidding. It's happening now.
Yeah.
And, or it's like, well, you're ready for when it happens then. I'm going to let it happen a little later. Like, that's fun.
Mechanically involving time counters makes obviously just so much sense. And I assume that this deck, it's 9, 10, 11, the doctors in this deck. I assume this deck has a lot of then suspend and time.
There's a lot.
Shenanigans.
I looked at the 9th
haven't
Doctor.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing that I discovered. People say this is my doctor.
My doctor, yeah.
The 9th Doctor, I think, is just my doctor. Because I love how the Doctor was originally... I remember watching like a video essay about the reboot of Doctor Who, and it was talking about how the essay at least portrayed Chris Eccleston as being like the edgy, like... post 9/11 early Doctor Who, and he's got a leather jacket, and I watch it, and he's just a goof.
Yeah,
like it's
he's
not
a real goofball.
I mean, sometimes he gets emotional about things that have impacted him and his people and whatnot, but he's just a goof.
So yeah,
sought out this card.
Single generic mana, blue and red, so 3 mana total for a 2/4 legendary Time Lord Doctor, as they all are, with haste. This is great because, of course, you will have seen this first episode. He's like, "Hi, I'm the Doctor. Run!"
Yeah,
right. Love that. With the ability into the TARDIS, I'm an absolute, to use a term from wrestling, I'm an absolute mark for the flavor abilities they put in the Universes Beyond cards. I think Universes Beyond. We've talked about this before.
Yeah,
I think on this show, in Universes Beyond cards specifically, like
love it.
D&D, Doctor Who, the Warhammer stuff, love it, impeccable. I don't want it all the time. It's too many words, but this I love it. Into the TARDIS. Whenever the 9th Doctor becomes untapped during your untap step, you get an additional upkeep step. What?
Which works with time counters because when things are suspended, you remove.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's very cool.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's great. I love that a lot. So briefly rewinding what I was saying earlier, I was talking about Blink.
Yeah.
And how it's a very, very, very popular episode, and I knew they'd have stuff referencing it, as we've seen. They have a different one, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. I'm sure there's a Weeping Angel in here somewhere. In fact, there's an entire secret lair of the Weeping Angels, but I wasn't sure. I was like, what are they going to pick for? This is the David Tennant Doctor saga, and my pick was actually going to be Family of Blood, and I'm curious if the names real. They all sound like they could be Castlevania games, right?
Yeah. What was
City
the
of
Da
Death.
Vinci one? City of Death.
Yeah, Family of Blood. I'm curious because again, I haven't really seen them. Are there any cards that you know of, James? Do you know actually? Would you know if there's a card referencing this episode? It was a 2-parter of this family of basically like interdimensional energy vampires, and they couldn't be killed, and they were trying to get the Doctor. They were to the point that he had to like hide himself, like he like turned himself into a human, wiped his own memory so he didn't know who he was, so he could just hide, so they couldn't get his, a Time Lord's essence essentially, and then be even more powerful. And it's the end of this two-parter is this well earned within the course of the story, the Doctor going absolutely ape on them in terms of like the mother that he traps in the heart of a star. The daughter gets trapped in because they can't be killed. So he's like he traps the daughter inside every mirror ever. If you ever see anything out the corner of your eye when you look in the mirror, it's her. Right. And, you know, like, ooh, you know, stuff like that. The son, sort of the main antagonist, you know, the son is like gets turned into all the scarecrows on Earth or something like
Real
that.
Old Testament stuff.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah. It's like he, you know, gets really like just sort of separates them in different parts of the universe where they can't die, but they'll basically just be stuck there forever, sort of thing. And it's like, geez, you know, the Doctor's great, but don't piss him off. So I wasn't sure if they were going to go with Family of Blood, but they opted for Blink instead, which I guess makes sense. But I'm curious if there's anything in there. But so this deck, what color is this whole deck? Because this is 9, 10,
Yes, Sky.
11, correct?
Yes, because Rose Tyler
Yeah.
is the Doctor's companion,
Right.
which we didn't even talk about what Doctor's companions.
I will say, and I think that he said this as well at like panels and such. Gavin has said that they did try to make just companion work
Yeah.
in this context, and it does not.
No.
There's no way to make like literal companion work. So they made the new ability Doctor's Companion, which is because there's the Doctor always has their companions.
Yeah.
So is the Ninth Doctor and Rose Tyler, are they the sort of the box commander for this?
No,
deck?
I think the box commander is the 10th Doctor.
10th Doctor,
10th Doctor
and Rose,
and
probably.
Rose.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because Rose she's alongside the 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
And 11th?
No.
No, just 9th and 10th?
Yep.
Does she come back for the 12th?
No.
Okay.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, you don't need to. I mean, I do not care about spoilers. Like, you could tell me, and I'll save all the information about what happens. I'll still watch it.
No,
I'm there for the ride.
the saga I mentioned, The Parting of Ways, is like the final. They get separated in a way that is sort of like they almost lampshade that it's like, yeah, anything could happen, or like anything could. No, not The Parting of the Ways. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Is that the one I'm thinking of? No, that's when the Doctor regenerates, not The Parting of the Ways.
Blood?
I can't remember. There's a card for it. But anyway, when the 10th Doctor and Rose finally become separated, it is done in a way where they kind of lampshade like, yeah, we reverse a lot of stuff on this show, but this is not being reversed.
Oh, okay.
Kind of.
I think I've seen a card.
There's a card where
depicting
like
that.
the 10th Doctor is like fading away from Rose,
And
in
the
art of
flavor
card.
text is like, you know, now's the time to say the thing.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it's called. Can we see Rose again? Because I didn't actually read Rose while she was up on screen. While you go looking for presumably that card, James. Rose Tyler, 1 and a white for a 2/2 human. Gets +1/+1 for each time counter on Rose. Interesting. Okay. Bad Wolf. When Rose Tyler attacks, put a time counter on it for each suspended card you own and each other permanent you control with a time counter on it. That could
She's going to get big.
get
real big, real quick.
powerful. Yeah, holy moly. Okay. Yeah, all right.
To clarify, too, because Doctor's Companion,
Right.
you can have 2 commanders if the other one is the Doctor.
Yes.
Not a Doctor.
Yeah.
Because there are legends like Morophon, since Doctor is now a creature type.
Right.
There are legends that could be creature type Doctor. That doesn't work. It has to be the Doctor, or I think specifically a Time Lord
Doctor. Yeah.
which is very funny to say aloud.
Yeah. So you could, it's great. You could do all kinds of fun stuff. You could have like, Rose and Peter Davidson, or like Matt Smith and the Brigadier. That'd be fun. I assume the Brigadier has a card in there.
There's
I'm just
a
guessing.
Brigadier card.
Yeah.
That's one thing I assume all of the military stuff is older.
Yeah, there was a period of time, I assume it was for budgetary reasons, where John Pertwee's iteration, the third Doctor, was like grounded for a period of time. Just like the TARDIS was broken, he's driving around in a jalopy and did a lot of stuff like on Earth, protecting the Earth from the Daleks. And, again, I assume that it was sort of like, I assume it was kind of budgetary. This is actually something. So I'll say this. I mentioned Blink. Blink was written by Stephen Moffat. Some of the most fan favorite episodes under Russell T Davies' tenure as showrunner were written by Stephen Moffat. Blink, Silence in the Library, and so on. And then when Russell T Davies left the position as showrunner, Stephen Moffat was given the show, and people were like, this is going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. Viewer, it was not. It was not awesome. He got really up into himself about like how the plot has to connect and like it
I think that was the video essay I watched.
It is generally been looked back on as not a great move. Mm-hmm. One thing I will say, particular in Christopher Eccleston's season and through David Tennant's season, there's a lot of stuff on Earth.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff in like modern day, as in like the year the episodes were shot. London and Cardiff.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but also it's the episodes I always in the old school show enjoyed the least of Doctor Who because it's a science fiction show. And I will say after Stephen Moffat came on, the one thing I really like is that there was a lot more stuff where they're like, we're on this absolutely baffling alien planet where the laws of nature just don't apply. And I appreciated that. Plot-wise, I abstain. But yeah. Lay something new on us. Hit us with Donna Noble. Donna Noble has left the library. You'll get there. 3 in a red for a 2/4 legendary human with soul bond. That makes a lot of sense. Soul bond reminder. This is back from Avison Restored. Yeah, Avison Restored Enjoyment Club.
Yeah, it's Graham, myself. I think Dan Emmons once said that he actually didn't hate it.
Hell yeah. Soul bond. The reminder text is: you may pair this creature with another unpaired creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as you control both of them. So, in practicality, you have a creature in play. You play a creature with soul bond, and you can say, these are now bonded. Mm-hmm. They can't unbond until the other one dies or goes away or something. Then, if an unbonded creature with soul bond is just kind of sitting there, anytime you play a creature, you can go, and they're bonded. Or you can say no, and then the next turn play a different creature and go, these two are bonded now. So you get to sort of choose how that goes. But once they're bonded, they can't unbond until one of them dies. Carrying on. Whenever Donna or a creature it's paired with is dealt damage, Donna deals that much damage to target opponent. Oh, that's very funny too. I like that a lot. I think she's just hit a Sontaran in the head with a mallet. And she is also the Doctor's companion. Mm-hmm. It's funny because Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate, who's a comedian and very funny, was sort of like the lighthearted rebound is the wrong word because that implies like a kind of relationship that typically does not exist with the Doctors and the companions. Generally everything's very platonic, but sort of like Donna Noble's run started as like very sort of like, well, hey, like, okay, sure, we've got Catherine Tate and she's on Doctor Who now and it's going to be really silly. And it does not end that way. And it's very good. I am super excited for the new special.
That's 10th?
Yeah.
Doctor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, she's great.
Because as soon as we're done this, I'm going home and I'm about to start watching the 10th Doctor.
Excellent. You're in for a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, let's see the 10th Doctor, because I haven't seen the 10th Doctor either. I really, you would think that I would be like, this is the thing about us doing all this magic stuff that we do, is that we rarely have time to like read the spoilers as they're coming out because we're doing other stuff.
I mean, now that we've gotten into this, I've looked at these cards.
I have
Don't
not.
remember
Have
any
not.
of them.
The 10th Doctor is 3 blue, red. Red. Yeah. Yeah, that tracks. I mean, it works for Eccleston as well.
Yeah.
But that tracks for this
They're
Doctor.
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3/5 with Allons-y. Whenever you attack, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. Put 3 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. Just like you were saying with Joyra.
Timey-wimey.
And also, timey-wimey. For 7 mana, time travel 3 times. Activate only as a sorcery. So we saw time travel on Wibbly Wobbly Timey-wimey. And it's just, you get, for anything you have that is suspended or has a time counter on it, you get to do something to it. You can increment.
+3 or -3. Although for this, you can go, I don't know why you would, but you can go like up, down, up, which might have some interesting.
Aeon Chronicler might.
Yeah, I mean, great pull.
Thank
First
you.
off,
Thank you.
love the Chronic.
Love Aeon
Yeah,
Chronicler.
big fan of the Chronic. He that go to draw you so many cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be some weirdo kind of situations with that, which is neat. It's not just a big chunk of 3 like up or 3 down.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 separate instances of time travel here.
Sweet.
Cool.
All right, give us something else.
Can we go one? Because when I was reading up on like where to start for Doctor Who, and that's how I found out that
That's got to be tough.
an actor that I liked. I just went with the actor that I knew and I liked.
Okay.
And it just so happened to be at the beginning of the reboot.
That's a fine place to start. Yeah.
There were a lot of lists of people like ranking the doctors and the best doctors and the companions too. And I found it very funny though that every companion ranking always had Rose at number 1. They're like, she's a companion that doesn't suck, which felt very like, ooh, I'm an angry nerd that's writing all these.
Oh,
but, can we go through the doctors? Because I think there's one of these that I saw him and went, oh, so this is like British Space Columbo.
Sure. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with William Hartnell, the first Doctor.
All right, I'm going to give you these fancy versions.
Oh,
here.
fancy versions. Oh, with the TARDIS frame. Very cool.
Can we get the not fancy versions?
No.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
All right. So the first Doctor is 1 white blue for a 2/2. And when the first Doctor enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a card named TARDIS, reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle. Whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature.
Blue-white Cascade.
Ooh, okay.
Can we look at TARDIS?
Did you get your TARDIS from Magic on Vegas?
I did not.
Oh.
Lineup was really long.
I have one for
I
you.
went,
Wheeler.
I went first thing in the
Thank
morning.
you, James.
You're welcome.
2 mana for a 2/4 flying vehicle, crew 2. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And whenever TARDIS attacks, if you control a Time Lord, the next spell you cast this turn has Cascade. And you may planeswalk.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about
We got
this.
planes.
The
Okay,
planes.
so a couple things here. I like that crew 2, meaning that the Doctor can crew it by himself, but flavorfully, usually there's 2 people in the TARDIS. I quite enjoy that. Yeah, so it's just whenever it attacks, if you control a Time Lord, then the next spell has Cascade, and you may planeswalk. It makes perfect sense that all these commander decks have planes and that you planeswalk because it's the TARDIS travels through space and time. I love that. We're not going to go into planes today because they look weird in the overlay, but that makes perfect sense. Oh, I love this. Also, the way that on this particular version of it with the overlay, the way that the art interfaces
Just
with
makes it
how the frame, it's just the TARDIS.
it's just the whole last art.
It's a whole shebang. So the thing is, this is a police box.
Yeah.
They used to exist. They were a real thing.
I'm familiar.
Yeah. And the joke is that the all the Time Lords have their own TARDIS, and the point is that they blend in wherever the Time Lords travel to.
Yeah.
But this the Doctor's TARDIS, the chameleon chip is broken, and so it just always looks like this.
Oh,
So that's why it always looks like a police box.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also a perception field they talk about later
Yeah.
I think that came up. That might have come up during Eccleston's thing. If it
I
didn't,
think it does. There's a lot of that. Of
Yeah.
like, how do people not recognize it? It's like, don't ask.
yeah, they just sort of can't really see it. They're just
Yeah.
sort of like they just kind of look past it, and unless you stand in front of them and go, "Look at this," and then they go, "Holy crap, where'd that big blue box come from?"
As soon as a show just says like, actually, this lets us do the thing we want. Shut up. I'm like, okay.
yeah.
Like, I don't care.
Oh, you're gonna love Doctor Who then.
Yeah.
The David Tennant to a great extent and Matt Smith to a lesser extent make mad plot contrivance use of the sonic screwdriver. It's a thing, and what does it do? Whatever the writer needs it to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Go for it. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The sonic screwdriver. 3 mana. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Love a manolith. For 1 and tap, untap another artifact. Oh, it's a manolith and a voltaic key. And for 2 and tap, scry 1. Okay. And for 3 and tap, target creature can't be blocked this turn. It does everything you needed to do.
Yeah, I might actually try this in Canadian Highlander, which is a very interesting thing to think about.
Oh.
That sonic screwdriver. I might probably not going to happen, but the fact that the words "I'll cast Tinker and find sonic screwdriver" could be a thing I say with prizes on the line.
That's
is
amazing.
Very
That head, it's a head on the left side of frame in the art here. That's Davros, or Davros. He's the creator of
of the Daleks.
of the Daleks. Yeah. Oh, yes. Good job. Oh, there he is. I can't reach.
No, I was hoping for a Werther's original or like a little treat. I got it right.
Here we go. Davros, Dalek creator. 1 and a full Grixis. So 4 mana for a 3/4 alien scientist and an artifact creature. That's kind of rude. It's just because he's more machine than man.
Yeah.
He's got Menace, which, okay, valid. At the beginning of your end step, create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with Menace if an opponent lost 3 or more life this turn. Then, each opponent who lost 3 or more life this turn faces a villainous choice. You draw a card or that player discards a card. Oh, I love this. That's the rules text.
Yeah.
That each opponent faces a villainous choice.
Oh, you haven't seen a villainous choice?
No.
Oh,
Is that sort of, does that come up a lot in the villains deck?
I think that's one of the big parts of that deck.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Oh man, I'm having a blast here today, everybody.
Can we see the second Doctor?
Oh, you're right. Rewind. Hey, it's Patrick Troughton and his mop, a little mop of hair.
Good haircut.
2 white black, 2 white blue for a 2/4. Players have no maximum hand size.
Oh.
Interesting. And how civil of you. At the beginning of your end step, each player may draw a card. Each opponent who does can't attack you or permanents you control during their next turn.
Oh, that's good.
That's good group hug. Hey, everyone can have cards. Just you can't touch me. Everyone can have stuff.
Everybody gets
Go
this
for
thing.
it. You know what? Take it. Why not?
card.
You just can't touch me. Oh, I like that a lot. That's very, very good. Like his 500-year diary. That's good stuff. Also, the background there is from like some of the old like opening title sequence of the show. I think it was the same actually for the first Doctor as well. Maybe that's a theme going forward. Let's find out with the third Doctor, John Pertwee. Oh, interesting. Very different art style. Much more sort of comic booky. I think this also undersells his enormous white afro.
I will ask, can we see the original one for this one, James? Because these are all the special TARDIS frame, but
Yeah.
the ones that are available in the decks, I think they are a little more true to.
There it is.
Look at that.
Oh, with the rapier. Oh, that's wonderful. 2 green blue for a 2/2. So green blue here. With trample. The third Doctor, this is the Doctor that was grounded. He's a little more rough and tumble, despite being older than the last one. Third Doctor gets +1/+1 for each non-creature token you control, and when the Doctor enters the battlefield, create your choice of a clue, a food, or a treasure. Oh, very good. It's rather a pity in a way. Now the universe is down to 699 wonders. I love the contrivance that there's the 700 wonders of the universe. in the same way there's the 7 wonders of the world.
Yeah.
That's very good. I don't know. I cannot, for the life of me, remember what he's referring to when he says that. So I assume some hilarious, relevant artifact was destroyed. Maybe something on Earth. I don't know. The 4th Doctor.
This is the candy doctor.
Yeah. Jelly babies. And a massive scarf. 2 green blue for a 4/4. You may look at the top card of your library at any time with, would you like a... Once each turn, you may play a historic land or cast a historic spell from the top of your library. When you do, create a food token. Interesting. I was like, I was briefly caught off guard by historic land, and then I remembered legendary land. That's what that means. So, cool. All right, historic relevant. I do like that they were like, all right, look, we have to figure out who this set's actually for. We're going to put all the old doctors in one deck.
Yeah.
And these are the historic ones.
These are the old people.
Yeah. Do you have the tokens by chance, James?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay. So there's a food token that's the bag. Bag of jelly babies.
bean, jelly baby,
Jelly babies.
jelly babies.
Yeah.
And that's his whole thing. Is that when he meets you, he offers
No,
you
it's
a jelly?
just it's one of the things that is most memorable about this doctor is he's sort of like he has a big coat that just has whatever he happens to need in the pockets. The pockets are always full of stuff.
Yeah.
Like Beej's coat. Have you ever
Yeah.
lifted Beej's coat?
No, I've only lifted Beej.
They weigh about the same. He's training it. Like
Yeah, he's Rock Lee with the weights on.
exactly. But memorably, he has just like a little bag of jelly babies. In there.
Gotcha.
So yeah. The 5th Doctor. Here's the
This is the sprig.
the celery stalk. I love it. 2 white blue for a 2/2 with peaceful coexistence. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control that didn't attack or enter the battlefield this turn. Untap those creatures. Ooh.
That's really cool. The design on all of these is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're all very unique in what they do. A lot of them work. I mean, obviously, it's a commander pre-con deck, so they should work together. But that's not always going to be the case, especially if you're trying to hit very specific flavor or story notes. But no, these all jam really nicely.
Yeah. The 6th Doctor. This will be Colin Baker. No relation. Right. His gimmick, he had an umbrella, but his gimmick was also a horrendous coat. just a lot of colors.
Yeah,
real color clash going on.
I bet that thing stinks. I mean, if you wear that in as rainy a climate as Britain, oh my god.
6 mana, 4 green blue for a 3/3 with the Time Lord's Prerogative. Whenever you cast a historic spell, copy it, except the copy isn't legendary. Only once per turn. That's kind of big.
Oh wait, well, 6 mana card.
Yeah.
That is a big effect.
Yeah. Pretty sweet. And it's only casting the spells, so you can't do that with lands.
Right, but it's not the first historic spell, so you can just pop off.
Whenever you cast a historic spell,
wait, sorry. It's
copy it. No,
it does only trigger
per
once
turn.
each turn.
Yeah.
Actually, I think few people will find that I was technically correct as I said it wasn't the first one. And while this,
I suppose.
James, the 7th Doctor, please.
And there's Sylvester McCoy.
God, that's a lot of words.
3 white blue for a 3/6. 5 mana 3/6. Whenever the 7th Doctor attacks, choose a card in your hand. Defending player guesses whether that card's mana value is greater than the number of artifacts you control. If they guessed wrong, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast a spell this way, investigate.
That rules.
That's very cool. Question for you. Do you have to cast it timing-wise? You have to cast it right then as part of this ability?
That's a part of the ability, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, most of these doctors are blue-white
Or blue-green.
or blue-green. So, who's the I assume Tom Baker. I assume it's the 4th Doctor, judging by the box art. Who's the canonical commander of this one?
I think that is the...
My guess would be the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith, but I don't.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Sarah Jane Smith she's the she's the Convoke one, right? Or the Historic Spell one?
Okay, yeah. 1 and a white for a 2/1 human detective. Whenever you cast a historic spell, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. And Doctor's Companion. I think Sarah Jane Smith is the best companion, but that's not up for debate. There was a different TV show as well. If you considered Doctor Who your sort of middle ground family show, and Torchwood, as I mentioned earlier, the like gritty adult show, the explicitly this is super for children show was Sarah Jane Adventures, which again was since the revitalization of new Doctor Who. They did try to do one originally way back called with Sarah Jane as well, called Canine and Company. Canine is a robotic dog.
A little robot dog, yeah.
Yeah. I assume in the same deck we got to have
There's a little robot dog called Canine.
Little robot dog. Does Canine also have Doctor's Companion? Oh, he does. Look at that. Oh, lovely. Love Canine. 1/1 for a single blue robot dog with negative. As long as Canine Mark 1 is untapped, other legendary creatures you control have Ward 1 and affirmative. For 1 and a blue and tap, target legendary creature can't be blocked this turn. He helps legendary creatures.
Yeah.
That's so great. Oh, what fun. Okay, cool.
Who's the 8th Doctor?
So that'll be Paul McGann. This is the
movie Doctor.
Yeah.
The American Doctor.
Made for TV. He's still British, but yes.
But he's a Brit the Americans can fall in love with.
Apparently, yeah. He's a good-looking guy. 6 mana, 4 white blue for a 4/4. When the 8th Doctor enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. And then I should say, I don't remember what happens apart from Sylvester McCoy being shot in San Francisco. I have no idea flavorfully how this card comes together. But anyway, second ability. Once during each of your turns, you may play a historic land or cast a historic permanent spell from your graveyard. If you do, it gains if this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Neat.
Okay.
So all these doctors synergize very well with one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's strong.
I guess that's fitting if there's like considered to be 2 primary eras. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the 8th Doctor's also in the older Doctor's deck, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think. Because there is a Jessica, well, the 10th, 9th, 10th, 11th.
1 through 8 in that deck,
Yeah.
and then 9, 10, 11 in a deck, and then 12, 13.
12, 13, and then the villains.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
There was... James, can you pull up the War Doctor?
Oh.
No.
It's this is William Hurt? John Hurt? Shoot.
John William Hurt.
Very cool actor. A cool character. It's one of the things where it's like, in retrospect, I don't really care, but it's one of the things where they're just like, we just decided to fundamentally change one of the rules because we can.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, oh, actually, between these 2 doctors that you knew about, there was another regeneration that the Doctor doesn't talk about, and also that we never talked about, and because it was weird, and so he also he's not numbered because he just don't worry about it. There's a regeneration you didn't know about, and it's like, okay, that's weird because we definitely saw. All right, sure. Anyway, so yeah, it's 2 red. White for a 3/5. Whenever 1 or more permanents phase out, and whenever 1 or more other card, that's a great start to an ability, actually.
Yeah, very Mirage blocker.
Whenever 1 or more permanents phase out, and whenever 1 or more other cards are put into exile from anywhere, put a time counter on the War Doctor. Whenever the War Doctor attacks, it deals damage equal to the number of time counters on it to any target. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead, meaning that you get another time counter, wouldn't you?
Wow.
Whenever one or more other cards are put into exile from anywhere. So if you
Yes.
kill something with the War Doctor's ability, he gets another.
It gets bigger.
He gets even more strong with time.
More war.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Yeah. There was they did a go-to of Doctor Who specials over the years have been, because time is not linear, it's been the Doctor teaming up with different
Another
iterations
Doctor?
of themselves.
Yeah.
I think the first one was the 3 Doctors. I think possibly most famously the 5 Doctors, where the first Doctor actually was recast because William Hartnell had passed away or was unable to participate because he was very old. And they did a special with David Tennant and Matt Smith, and people were hoping so much for Christopher Eccleston to come back and make a cameo appearance, and there is some sort of behind the scenes rift occurred that cannot be mended, very sadly, and so he didn't do that. But instead, we got this new character of the War Doctor.
Oh.
In terms, it wasn't like they sort of rewrote. They were like, we'll do a different part or whatever. It was, I mean, instead of there being a third Doctor that was previously established, there was a third Doctor who was this character who handles a very different narrative role
Right.
than bringing back the Ninth Doctor would have. But it's still a very fun
What
special.
war? Is this the War of the Time War? Okay.
The Time War.
Oh, it's just the Time War, not War of the Time Lords.
It's just called the Time War.
Time War.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the in the original run, there's a lot of faffing about with the Time Lords, and the Doctor gets put on trial at Gallifrey, and the Time
Right.
Lords try to take his powers away, and it's a whole thing. And then when we get to Christopher Eccleston, he's the last one.
Yeah.
All the Time Lords are dead except
Yes.
for him.
Yeah, that's a big.
Yeah. And so if I recall correctly, it has been a while, the War Doctor would be between Paul McGann and Christopher Eccleston, which is why we don't see them directly regenerate. Is that
Right.
what? James, do you remember?
That sounds right. I can't remember.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. There's also another. Do you know? Actually, I have no idea.
I have not. I've only heard of the Fugitive Doctor.
Yeah, I was just going to
have
say.
Not,
I don't know what this is.
no idea.
Yeah.
I think this is during
This is
Peter Capaldi or Jodie Whittaker's time.
This is
yeah.
newer.
This is newer. This
Very
is,
new,
I just
yeah.
looked it up. Wikipedia 2020 is when this
Okay.
character was
I've
introduced.
seen.
I'm so behind.
I have
Yeah.
seen this actor on the when you the Netflix loading screen.
Okay.
Is the YouTube safe way I'm going to say that.
So it's three red green for a 4/4. When the Fugitive Doctor enters the battlefield, investigate. Nice. And then whenever the Fugitive Doctor attacks, you can sacrifice a clue. When you do, target instant or sorcery in your graveyard gains flashback for 2 red green until end of turn. Cool.
Cool.
Is this? I assume the Fugitive Doctor is in the newest Doctor's deck.
Yes.
The 13th
That
Doctor.
makes
It
sense.
is, yeah.
Okay. Who's the? We're coming up on an hour, but I'm curious. We know who the default commanders are for the first 2 decks. I'm curious about the other 2 decks. So
It looks like it's the 13th.
that's great. The
good
13th Doctor and a companion in particular.
Oh, it's
Is it Yasmin Khan?
Roddy.
Is it this? No.
I thought it was Ronnie. Ronnie begins with an R. It is mono red. It's a mono red Doctor's companion.
Okay.
Maybe.
Let's read the 13th Doctor first. I love the art on this, by the way. 1 green blue for a 2/2. Paradox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Very cool. And Team TARDIS. At the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control with a counter on it.
That's messed up.
That's super messed up.
That's so good.
What I thought we are like, I guess it's Prophet of Krufix with extra steps at least. But are the extra steps?
I think you'll find it more closely mirrors Ivory Tusk Fortress from Khans of Tarkir, which untaps all creatures with counters on them during your opponent's untap.
We got to
step.
put a piece of fishing line on the glasses so they can just keep going.
Please,
up to the
that would be
ceiling.
such a good bit.
Ryan Sinclair. Is this the
Sure.
It has Doctor's Companion, and I don't know who this is, so I assume
right.
it's a new character.
2 and a red for a 2/2 human. Whenever Ryan attacks. Ryan. Whenever Ryan attacks, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with mana value less than or equal to Ryan's power.
Jesus.
Put the exiled cards not cast this way in the bottom of your library in a random order. And Doctor's Companion. How's that for a?
That's a gruesome twosome right there.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
That's a pretty sweet gray ogre.
That's one way to put a card with 2 paragraphs on it.
All right, sweet.
Can we see the 11th Doctor and then the 12th Doctor?
Oh, yeah,
Just so
sure,
we can
yeah.
round out the Doctors.
Good call. Yeah. The 11th Doctor. This will be Matt Smith.
This is the one I know about David Tennant.
Yeah.
And I know about David Tennant because I think everybody found him charming.
Yeah.
And he was on, I found out about him originally from QI.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was on a couple of times. And then Matt Smith, I found out from Tumblr. Him and the Onceler in the same.
I saw like a TikTok of him doing like a press interview because he was in he played Prince Philip in The Crown.
Oh,
Right. And he was doing like a press junket for that. And I was like, what are the totally normal comments on this going to be? And they were all just like, he's got such big hands. And I was like, whoa. Okay. This is the Doctor you're talking about, everybody.
Oh,
Chill
my
out.
God.
The 11th Doctor, 1 white, blue for a 3/2 with I am talking. Whenever the 11th Doctor deals combat damage to a player, you may exile a card from your hand with a number of time counters on it equal to its mana value. And if it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. And also, for 2 mana, target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. You can sneak him through there.
I don't know what his bid is other than Tumblr.
Fezzes are cool. Bow ties are cool.
Oh, he's Moroccan.
No.
Oh, okay.
I recall so we only had a season with Christopher Eccleston, and then we had like 3 years and a bunch of specials with David Tennant, and people had grown very accustomed to David Tennant. And as you say, very affable, supremely charming. Everyone was sad to see him go, and so initially there was a very big "How dare you stand where he stood" reaction to Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Which dissipated very quickly because Matt Smith rules. So, yeah, that's. I'm trying to think what he didn't have the same. He didn't shout Alan Z all the time like number 10. I'm trying to think if he did. They did the I am talking, but that's not like a common thing. That was a specific thing. Yeah, I don't know. He's good. You'll like him.
And then the 12th Doctor,
Oh, wow.
Peter Capaldi.
That is an amazing piece of art for the 12th Doctor. Oh, my God. I got to go back and watch more.
Now,
I got to go watch Peter Capaldi.
I haven't watched any of this, but I know Peter Capaldi from several things, so I
Yeah.
can only assume. And I know him from his other work, and then I know him. I saw this card art, and I went like, "Oh, they let the Doctor say the F word."
Yeah, I was gonna say, and the C word. Have you seen?
Yeah.
You've seen Peter Capaldi's other
Yes,
work? Yeah,
yes.
exactly. I was like, my like TikTok algorithm was giving me like a bunch of Doctor Who stuff, and then I can't remember the name of the show. It was like the political dramedy that he was on the BBC for years. And he's just like wandering around the like offices of the like Minister of the Interior, just like cursing strips off people.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, what's
This is now the news now or something. It has a very like name that sounds like it would be a Brass Eye spinoff.
Yeah. The card is 3 blue-red for a 4/4. The first spell you cast from anywhere other than your hand each turn has Demonstrate.
Yeah, that's sick.
Demonstrate. Whenever you cast that spell, you may copy it. If you do, you choose an opponent to also copy it. A copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. So you do it, and then you can
You cast
you
it.
get a second one,
Yep.
but someone else also gets one of them.
Yeah, you do 2, somebody else does 1.
That's very cool.
Originally from the Strixhaven Commander decks.
Yeah. And whenever you copy a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on the 12th Doctor as well.
Great.
Okay, cool. And then we've seen the 13th Doctor as well.
So those are all the doctors.
Then let's round it out with, I believe, is it Missy?
I think it's just Missy.
Oh, excellent. Okay, cool. So, going way back, the Doctor's nemesis was another Time Lord who called themselves the Master. And famously through the original run of the show, played by very creepy men with goatees, right?
That's redundant, but go ahead.
Yeah, but just sort of like, hello, I am the Master.
Yes.
Right, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the Master did reappear eventually in New Doctor
After
Who.
taking over Nakatomi Plaza? Or...
And I won't spoil you for when that happens. But then, before the Doctor even did in the show, regenerated into a lady with Missy here. So 3 and a full Grixis, 3 blue, black, red, 6 mana, 4/5. Whenever another non-artifact creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control, face down and tapped. It is a 2/2 Cyberman.
I know about the Cybermen.
The Cybermen are very cool. Do they have any? I'll finish reading Missy. Hold on.
There are Cybermen.
I know, but I have a specific question about it, but I'll get to it. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent faces a villainous choice. Each artifact creature you control deals 1 damage to that opponent. Holy moly. Or you draw a card and chaos ensues. Oh, I love her. Oh, this is so good. I was like, chaos, right, because it's Planeswalk.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Missy's a absolute gremlin. She's a delight.
I've seen her featured with Peter Capaldi a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's a very... Every time I have to load up a new episode, I see Peter Capaldi with a Cyberman's like decapitated head standing next to Missy, who looks very unimpressed. I'm like, this is what I want to watch. These two hating each other?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
What I want to know, I'm glad that the Cybermen exist. I love this flavor of her turning dead things into Cybermen. That's very cool. I'm just curious because you can see Cybermen in their newest iteration on here. I'm curious if there are any cards that depict any of the older or even older iterations of what Cybermen look like. Because the Daleks look basically unchanged from the 60s.
Yeah,
they look a little cleaner, a little tidier around the edges, maybe a little, like maybe the proportions are a little more sleek.
But they still look like, what if you gave R2-D2 a gun?
Yeah. The first round of Cybermen looked just like gimp masks with antenna, and then the second round maybe a little bit more threatening, but still very sort of like Bibendum's weird cousin. Mm-hmm. And now you get these cool like metallic dudes that like tromp around and go delete and all that, and that's it's very scary and all that. But I haven't looked at the deck. I really want to know if there's some of the old Cybermen in there.
Yeah, unfortunately, at time of recording, we're working off of what's been officially spoiled. And I do not see anything available to us right now.
Well, we'll all have to find out together.
Yeah.
So, are you how you liking what you've seen so far from like ignore all the Doctor Who stuff? I am incapable of doing so. But if you could ignore all the Doctor Who stuff from a card quality perspective, like you mentioned like potentially trying Sonic Screwdriver and Canadian Highlander. Is there like is there enough new stuff here that you're thinking like there might be a North 100 review in this?
I don't think for a full review, but there are definitely a handful of cards that are worth talking about. With Sonic Screwdriver being one of the weaker ones.
Oh.
I think there's a couple of the companions that are pretty good at they're cheap and they generate artifacts, or they get bigger when you play artifacts, or when they let you cast free things. So I imagine if we get a a group of cards from these decks that end up seeing Canlander play, they are going to be Doctor's Companions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Even though that ability has no relevance in the format whatsoever.
Hey, it's nice to be able to ignore an entire paragraph of text.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, you take the little victories.
Well, I'm very, very excited about this. We are planning on making some more stuff involving the Doctor Who decks, so keep an eye out for those. But for the meantime, that is going to do it for this episode of Tap Tap Concede. Hey, the nicknames for Wilds of Eldraine has flipped from submission mode into voting mode. So head over to lrr.cc/nicknames and vote for the hilarious nicknames that you enjoy. And then we will share all of the winning entries of those on a future episode. The next episode, question mark?
It will hopefully be the next episode.
Hopefully the next episode of Tap Tap Concede, a Magic the Gathering podcast. I don't know why I went there with that. Reminder that this show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Thank you always, Card Kingdom. Check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. And it is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Until next time, I have been Graham, joined by Wheeler.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
James has been on tech. Heather gets these online. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.